let's see. Daniel is an old millennial, so he gets his news from Reddit, and Kim is a young millennial, so she gets her news from TikTok. Is this spot on?
Instagram,
Okay.
She's
New
not
York
that young.
Times.
New York Times.
Yeah, I skimmed the headlines.
Yeah.
Well, if ChatGPT can't do it, then what makes you think you could do it?
Is still brought to you by Budweiser. It doesn't matter if they're paying me.
Sam Altman can get away with it, okay? He's the best looking guy in tech.
The race still cannot be broadcast together.
Wrong on both accounts. Wrong on all accounts. All accounts.
And welcome to the Dirty Data Podcast. I'm your host, Evan Wimpy. Super excited today because I'm introducing not just myself, but two of the brightest, bravest minds in data science and analytics. And just coincidentally, two of my best friends. And I've never let them know that personally. And so, out in public is the best way to air things. And, we've got two guests today. And here on the Dirty Data Show, we don't like to bend to gender stereotypes. So actually, I'll let Daniel introduce himself, or Daniel, Dr. Daniel Brannock. This is going to air in 5 to 8 years, so he'll be a doctor then. But Daniel Brannock, welcome to the show. Can you give us a quick introduction, who you are and how you got here?
Yeah, my name's Daniel Brannock. Daniel is fine, for the record. And I introduced Evan at a comedy gig. I think his first one ever, actually, which is a real accomplishment of mine. I'm really happy to have launched this career that he's made so much of since then. So that's how we met, and then it's been great ever since then.
That's not how you met.
I know, Kim, come on. We
Our
met.
listeners aren't idiots. They know that we wouldn't have met with you introducing me into this world-renowned biggest stage in comedy. I won't out the venue, but it's a big comedy venue.
It's a big comedy venue.
Yeah.
No, I worked with Evan a long time ago. I've been a data scientist for, I guess, 8 or 9 years now. We worked at a consulting company called Elder Research, and now I work at a company called RTII International, and I've just been plugging along, doing this as best I can for a little while. Excited to be on the show. It's a tremendous honor to be here. I've been following Kim's work for a long time. Don't care much for Evan, but it's great to be here with Miss Keiter. Yeah, that's all I've got to say.
That's Dr. Keiter, please, Dr. Brannock. She presumably when this airs post-production, she'll have her PhD as well. So Dr. Kimberly, is it Kim or Kimberly?
Kim,
One of
you
my
can
best
call me
friends.
Kim.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. Yes.
How'd you get here? Where are you from? What you
How did
doing?
I get here? You invited me here.
And we
And
thank you
that's
for
how I'm
joining.
here. Yeah. I am also a data scientist. I'm a little shy of Daniel's tenure, but 7 years. I work at Elder Research where I met Daniel and Evan, and excited to be here to talk to Evan and kind of bask in your comedy glory here a little bit.
You're
Get a taste of the show business, as they say.
you're an easy laugh. You're every comedian's dream to be
Oh,
a guest and an audience and in
oh,
attendance. And you were in attendance at the show where Daniel introduced me to the first ever gig. It wasn't the first ever gig, but it's not. It's dirty data. There's not a 0 and 1. This was a comedy gig. This was not. Sometimes it's you're delivering a client some bad news. Can you tell a few jokes beforehand? And do you count that as a gig or not? When I
I
say how
choose
many
not
gigs I've
to.
done, well, you don't get asked by booking agents how many gigs you've performed. If you did, I bet you would choose too.
Yeah.
Ah, awesome. Elder Research. That's where we met, and Daniel and I have since parted ways, and Kim is still there. Elder Research, I assume, does research on the elderly. Is that right?
not quite, not quite. We do data science consulting. So
Yeah, data
that was
science
already
consultant.
taken as a name. So uh,
I don't know if it was. Elder is probably the oldest, no pun intended, data science consultancy out there. Um, Great. So folks will reach out to Kim if they have real data science consulting questions once they hear her wisdom on the show. And Daniel, you're at RTI. Does that stand for something? I assume elderly research.
It's Research Triangle Institute. Thank you for asking. I always want to say it's RTI International, and I always want to. This is not an ATM machine situation. All right, I'm not being redundant. The I is different.
So why
It's a
does one
big.
I get initialized and one I gets spelled? Why not RTII?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. Uh, it's a big nonprofit, so thousands of people based here in the Triangle where we all live, in the Triangle in North Carolina, and do a lot of different work, a lot of different types of research. And I'm in the data science group, which is great because I get to touch a lot of different areas, so criminal justice, and then also healthcare research, and just all sorts of smatterings of things. It's been really nice.
So all the criminal records de-identified? Are you able to piece together who any
You
of the
know,
defendants are?
it was not defendants, it was victims that we had their data.
Ah,
Really interesting project. We had this database of uh, essentially a criminal enterprise's consumer records management system. So it had who they reached out to, how often they reached out to them, how much money they asked for, how much money they got. Really fascinating data that was seized by the United States Postal Inspection Service. Uh, Interesting insight, but it was very identified. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a cool project.
yeah. Very cool. The victims is, I don't know. It's the other side of the spectrum than criminals that I would want to sort of look into and be excited to see the data there.
Yeah.
Look for myself and my relatives. Um, Great. This is called the Dirty Data Show. If you didn't know that, thanks for tuning in. And Daniel, Kim, if you didn't know that, thanks for joining. Um, you've both been in consulting, and I know that you've seen some dirty data slash dirty analysis. So I want to take some time to give you a pause to think about this. But what I'm curious is some dirty data stories. What's the most comically horrific analysis that you've seen or that you've done or that you've seen me do? And as I let you stew on that, I want to give like the consummate example from this guy that we know. His name is Elder Research, I think, or Research, I don't know. He's a dinosaur in the space. He's been around since the Stone Age when dinosaurs were around. They invented the stones, but they also invented like the projectors with the transparency projectors. And Dr. Elder tells the story presenting to a bunch of medical doctors about some trend and some admittance rate for some criteria and like a bunch of spikes in it. And he lays the transparency down and he shows it and he says, oh, this is what we're seeing. And the doctors all, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And they explain all of the spikes in this line. And then he says, oh shit, this transparency, I put it on backwards. And he flips it over. And so it's literally the exact opposite insights that should be drawn from this. And the doctors, with no sense of self-introspection is just, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And just go and explain away every curve in the line based on, their experience. They know exactly what it means. That feels like the consummate dirty data or dirty analysis. You flip a chart 180 degrees and you're willing to accept the brand new analysis just as much as you're willing to accept the analysis before. But you two are both my senior in experience, not in age. But we're the same generation, so we're peers effectively. I am curious what sticks out to you as some dirty analysis or dirty data that you've dealt with. And now to sort of bend to gender stereotypes, Kim, I'll invite you to share first.
Sure. I don't know if mine is comically horrific,
We'll
but
let's exaggerate it as much as you'd like.
I guess I've had a couple of cases where we've had to build analyses off of manually entered data, which whether some of it was me, like I had to create my own mappings for things because they didn't exist, or just that was how the data was collected for the project was manually entered, and that is definitely very hard to kind of work off of because uh, things change. There's no standardized process always for entering that manual data, and so. Yeah, it was a interesting twist on like what we usually build, I guess, of pulling from a database that's got standardized processes. So
You ever
definitely a difficult one.
you ever get to talk? I guess if you're the manual enterer, then you can talk to yourself at will. I talk to myself a lot. But do you ever get to talk to the manual enterers? What the hell does this mean? What is this supposed to map to?
Yeah, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, I think we have to understand, what is this new value that's popped up, or sometimes columns definitions change or something like that. So it's definitely just you gotta chat with the people who are in charge of it as much as possible to understand how to adapt as things change.
You recommend being condescending at all?
Do you know me at all?
That's
You're the good
great. Yeah,
cop.
that was really good.
No, because sometimes manually entered data is like the best that can be done at the time. But I think as we can move towards standardized data, that'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll be out of jobs when the data's clean. What do you need us
That's
for?
true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get a
Yeah.
lot of practice.
Yeah. That's good. It's good. AI can't. Well, that probably is better than us at this already. Daniel, what about you? Anything stick out as comically horrific?
The, you're not going to believe this, but criminal enterprises don't do a great job of sanitizing their databases. So the data set that I mentioned before, which I didn't know this question was coming, it's perfect, was the grossest data that I have ever seen. I mean, foreign characters all up everywhere, non-ASCII
Foreign
characters everywhere.
characters, like non-American criminals, as part of the.
Yeah. A lot of a lot of the operations for these groups are happening outside the U.S. So that we've got a lot of different currencies floating around. We've got a lot of different languages floating around, and just like you import it into Python, and just the whole thing screams at you because it doesn't recognize the encoding of the characters. It's just a giant pain in the butt. That fortunately I joined the project after they had already resolved, but really, really gross data, the least surprising gross data that you've ever seen because it was being maintained by people who had, I think, well-reasoned apathy towards what this group would look like in 5 years, knowing that this group's probably not going to exist in 5 years. We're not going to worry too much about if this is sustainable. That was the grossest data for sure. I struggle to think of any really comically bad analyses. I've had such talented coworkers for my whole working experience. I think Evan, you've told a story about using uh, uh,
About
there's
using.
there's there's something called a leak from the future, and
What the hell's a leak from the future?
let me tell you, Evan, about leaks from the future, and it's a really common way for people to do a really bad job, but it looks like they're doing a very good job, which is when you accidentally, and we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. We're going to say it's accidental. You accidentally include information about the era that you're trying to predict in as an input into your model. If you're trying to build a model that predicts a stock price, good luck. But also, the stock price for the day you're trying to predict is a very good starting place if you're allowed to use it. But you're not allowed to use it because you don't know the stock price for tomorrow. So this happens in lots of less overt ways, such as we're going to build a model that predicts the likelihood of some team to win a baseball game. And we know that this pitcher does well in certain types of weather. And so you're going to use the weather to predict the outcome of the game. Well, you don't know the weather. You have a forecast for the weather, and that's pretty close probably, but you don't really know the weather for that day. So that's a source of error and uncertainty that you're not going to account for in your model if you're using the true weather for that day in your model.
That's a great example. That's why my model worked better for the Padres in San Diego. The weather's more predictable. Yeah.
Yeah, that came to mind. Evan, what is going on with the visualization on your back wall there? It's the 2021 National Series Championship, but what do the colors mean?
The colors represent people, not the color of the people. We're more progressive than that here on the Dirty Data Show. But this is the spectrum of Braves logo colors and a few choice examples in between. Each bar in this stream graph represents offensive output, and I've forgotten what the metric is. I only look at it every single day. But the wider bar for an individual player means more offensive production from day 0 in the season to day 162 in the
Oh, it's the
season.
whole season.
It's the whole season. So we can, the radio listener here is going to just have to bear with us for a moment as I explain this plot in great detail. You could see something like at the top here, Ronald Acuna Jr. in the 2021 season has a nice fat bar at the beginning of the season, and it tapers down to 0 because he got hurt in the middle of the season and thus had no offensive production. But it's good, clean data regardless of the weather. This plot is.
Is that light blue one? Is that Rosario? That might be Soler.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Rosario, Eddie Rosario. Yeah, it comes in mid-season and it gets nice and fat at the end during the playoffs. This is playoffs included too, world champion Braves. If you're listening to this in 2025, you just remember fonder times. It's been rough.
Thanks for the explanation.
Thanks for pointing that out. I love talking about the 2021 Braves. A leak from the future. Yeah, you refer to a baseball circumstance, but I built an actual model that was in production with a leak from the future that didn't get found out until a month in, when all of a sudden the real-time results were way worse than the actual results. It was forecasting financial revenues based on invoices that were out, and based on the way we grouped the products, we sort of had this aggregate that we were averaging over that included the current month, and then the performance in real time was a lot worse than just the manual guy who was making the manual guesses before. It wasn't a lot worse, but it was on par with, and he doesn't have the same infrastructure cost as the model does. But the model doesn't have health insurance.
Yeah, I was going to say, he probably has higher cost than the model. Well, maybe not ongoing.
He does more than the model though, too. He's, he hosts like happy hours and stuff. So model doesn't do shit. I'm going to take liberty to call you out as well, Daniel. This is a story that I tell often. I can't remember if Kim was here. This was back in the pre-pandemic days. Has nothing to do with model build, just general hilarity. We were in an office that had a single conference room that was often double booked, and we were trying to circulate in and out. And I was waiting to go in as you were coming out, and you came out and you were self-conscious about the time. So you looked at your watch with your cup of full coffee in your hand. When you look at your watch, you pour that coffee all over our nice little conference eyeball thing, the 360 degree
The owl
camera. Yeah, the owl. Yeah, you poured coffee all over it. So that was a leak from the future too. Or at least as bad as one.
Wow. Yeah.
Were you there, Ken?
Why was I there?
Were you there for that?
I don't know that I was there, but I've certainly heard the story, and I can see it so well. I can see it happening.
Yeah.
It's a great one.
All right. Today's show brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. Delicious in a bottle, delicious in a can. With a can, you can take it to the pool. It's pool season. Drink your Budweisers at the pool. Okay. As ideas come to you, I'm curious for more dirty data stories. But I do want to the purpose, this impetus for the shows. We talk about a few current events in the data science, technology, AI world. And so I take it that, let's see, Daniel is an old millennial, so he gets his news from Reddit, and Kim is a young millennial, So she gets her news from TikTok. Is this spot on?
Instagram,
Okay.
She's
New
not
York
that young.
Times.
New York Times.
Yeah, I skimmed the headlines.
Yeah. You don't click on the actual link and get a paywall. I saw a keynote speaker at a conference talk about how they decide when to give the paywall and when to let you access the article. It gave me some really good tips for trying to beat the paywall.
They're
Oh,
not just counting the number of articles you
yeah,
access?
that's what I would thought.
You naive data scientists. No, 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 no. There's a fancy causal model that goes on underneath it. And it's actually a pretty cool
Wow,
talk about how
Oh,
they
yeah,
do
that's
it.
interesting.
Yeah,
that's
well, okay,
very
this wasn't a story that I was going to talk about because it's not a story, but okay, let's talk about this for a second. So they have to balance these KPIs of revenue. They get subscriptions, and if they just block everything, then more people will subscribe to see it. But they balance that against engagement, and if their readership goes down by 90% in the next month because nobody's looking at free articles, then nobody's going to be a reader in 6 months, and there's no more subscribers. So I sort of have to balance that, and the way they have a model that helps decide based on the popularity of a given article, like how likely is somebody to actually subscribe if they put up the paywall. And then sometimes they have the personal information. Certainly if you're registered with your email address, they get a lot more fidelity and granularity. But here's the tricky part. If they know when their inbound are coming from Google search, and if you bounce a bunch of people back to Google puts you down, moves you down the list. And then if you're not on Google's list, so it's cool. I don't know, it's data scientists at Google have invented a way for data scientists at the New York Times to sort of fight against each other and keep our jobs, which is cool.
That is cool. So New York Times is incentivized to prefer those coming from Google. That almost sounds monopolistic. Google leveraging their search monopoly to their own benefit because it also then incentivizes people to use Google. Huh.
Well, to be fair, Google's coming out of my mouth, not out of the New York Times mouth. It could be any search tool
You're right. Yeah, Bing. Bing's
Bing,
really,
Bing. Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't think of
yeah,
another one actually.
yeah.
Whatever. Google's dead, right? ChatGPT, generative AI. Google's dead.
Yeah, you don't need to ask Google anymore. In fact, when you do ask Google, it just returns the stupid whatever their version is a Bard. Uh,
Nobody knows.
yeah.
Nobody
Somebody
knows.
knows. I'll Google it.
Google it.
Yeah, I'm gonna
You
look.
can't trust Google to tell on itself. It's gonna.
Is it not just Gemini?
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's
The
called AI assistant.
the Google AI says it's called Gemini. Yeah, good job.
Thank you. Thank you
I
so
would have
much.
would have no reason to lie about that, right? If it says it's Gemini, it's Gemini.
Is Bard like way outdated? Is that like the yeah, that's what Gemini used to be called.
Yeah, you're an
Ugh.
old millennial.
Yeah, this is back in 2023. I just can't even.
And if you're listening to this, it's 2029. Thank you, Dr. Brannock.
Yeah.
All right. Duolingo. You ever heard of Duolingo?
Yeah, of course.
Worse.
Okay. It spans the entire millennial generation. Duolingo does. What language are you trying to learn?
We're going to Italy in 2 days. So I've recently switched to Italian. Uh, I can say one coffee, please. They thought that was the most important thing to learn first. Uh, I'm not
Do you
going to do
drink
it now.
do you drink
No, I don't
coffee?
drink coffee. No, I don't drink coffee. I'm actually pretty frustrated. I wanted to learn how to say, I'm sorry for bumping into you, and how do I find the bathroom, and um, useful things like that. But no, I can say I can order a coffee and I can order a croissant. I actually forgot how to order the croissant. I can order a coffee.
Let's hear it.
No, absolutely not. This is being recorded.
All right, let me turn the record. Okay, we stopped recording. Let's hear it.
I think it's I'm not even like you just walk in. I can just say a coffee, please. Not like I would like a coffee. It's just you walk into an establishment and you say un café per favore, and then they hopefully give you a coffee. And then there's no follow questions, there's no exchanging of money. It's just you say those four words and then
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Italy is not known for, a wide variety of coffees. You just say a coffee,
yeah,
and it's here's the one thing that we got.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
oh, I
Please,
wonder if please, it's good.
yeah,
Per favore.
per favore. Yeah,
You do your hands. For
I
the
think
radio
that's
audience, I'm doing Italian hands.
yeah. I'm wondering how an Italian would feel about an American coming in and gesticulating wildly to things that don't require any gestures. Is I don't know.
Give it a try and let us know how it goes.
They know that's a stereotype, right? The Italians know they have that reputation.
Really, it's just any sort of self-awareness.
Yeah.
We're Americans. We know the American reputation. We're loud,
Smart?
obnoxious,
No. Ah,
tall, good looking,
enterprising. Yeah.
enterprising. Yeah, yeah. Nothing but positive stereotypes of America across the rest of the world. What about you, Kim? What language are you trying to learn?
Well, at one point I was trying to learn, Spanish. Uh,
Yeah, I know it. I've heard of
you
it.
know it, you've heard of it.
Spanish.
Yeah. But I haven't done it in a long time, so I am so sorry. I have no recent experience
Lo
learning
siento.
Spanish.
Let me ask, did you stop trying to learn because Duolingo CEO made an announcement that said they're going AI first and they won't hire any contractors unless they've tried to use AI to complete that
Oh,
task?
wow. No, I didn't. This was pre that, but can't wait to hear more. You have to tell us
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah. Well, it's an ongoing saga. CEO announced this has been a little over a month ago. So we're going AI first. We're not cutting our workforce. Anytime you have to say we're not cutting our workforce, it probably means we're about to cut our workforce. But we're not hiring any new contractors or fulfilling any existing contracts unless we first explored trying to complete this task with AI. And do you want to guess if the general public has been positive or negative to this news?
Yeah, I imagine folks are really excited about this new widespread application of AI and an application that they already use and love, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a startup trying to get off the ground that needs to find some enterprising way to do it. They've got a nice market of however many 1,000 customers, and now we just are going to use AI.
I heard about that, and when I'm doing Duolingo, it feels like they often are changing things up for absolutely no reason. Like I'll be doing I'll be doing the next section in my giant unit, and it'll come in and it'll teach me the same crap that I learned 3 sections ago because they shifted things around, and they said we've reworked. Anyway, I'm wondering how much development they need to be doing versus how much they're actually doing. They seem to be uh, constantly changing around the lessons in a way that they don't necessarily need to be. So
Well, maybe they don't have language learning figured out. Maybe they're like tweaking, experimenting. Maybe you're always in the B group of the A/B test that's getting the shift around.
oh, maybe I am.
Are they wanting AI to be in the UI? Like our interactions with it will be mostly with this technology, or is it just for any projects they do, they want
Yeah,
it to be?
that wasn't clear to me from the AI generated summary of the article that I read. Uh, that it's broad enough brushstrokes that basically anything that a contractor could come in to do. So I'd imagine some of that is like the actual products development and the UI, or the like whatever the language learning pathway, and some of it is probably whatever marketing, and some of it is their internal operations. They probably hire a bunch of contractors to do a bunch of stuff, and now they're saying we're going to use AI.
When I
And
heard
there's
about this, it sounded to me like they meant people doing the languages, doing the language learning, not the engineering work on the API backend, is what it sounded like to me, but that could have just
Oh,
been.
okay. Yeah, that's a different for sure. Oh.
I my intuition is just it's the broadest scope possible. And when you say AI first, then it means every damn thing we do is AI going to do it for us. But the CEO has since softened up his words and like yeah, like typical CEO speak of I'm not saying that there's going to be no humans left at Duolingo. I'm saying that we're going to look to whatever leverage technology. I could pull up an actual quote, but let's just give him the what's the opposite of benefit of the doubt?
Oh gosh, I don't know. But I'm with you. Yeah, I think we should do that.
Yeah,
Disadvantage of surety.
we should give him the disadvantage of surety. I like it. You heard it here first on the Dirty Data Show. Disadvantage
I
of
think it would
surety.
still be of the doubt. I think it
If
would
you
still be,
antonym both of them.
yeah.
I tried. Okay. Okay.
You did better than I did.
So have they lost a bunch of users?
No, I think
People
they've
rebelling.
actually they took down their social media, like they took down literally all of their TikTok videos for a short time, and then they posted these like sort of horrific, kind of scary, where the bird is like, "Oh no, we've been compromised. This is terrible." Yeah, they're pretty. What? Who's the kids younger than us? We're millennials. What are they?
Gen Z.
Yeah, they're like the Gen Z, social media managers do all kinds of crazy stuff, not just like the boring grandpa newspaper thing. So I think they're trying to play it down comically somehow. Uh, but they're still AI first. They're not backing down from the message that yes, we're AI first.
Well, here, do we need to? I want to learn Spanish. That's the language I mostly do on Duolingo. But do we really need to at this point? These the if Duolingo is arguing that they can just use AI to do all of the teaching, then surely we can do AI to do all the translation. I feel like they might be a little short-sighted with this. Uh,
So you're going AI first? No, we're going AI
yeah, we're
first.
going AI first. We don't need to learn Spanish. If an AI can write the training book, then what are we doing? What are we using you for?
Yeah. We don't we don't we don't need to use AI to learn it. You're saying we just don't need to learn
We
another
don't need to
language at
learn it.
all. Yeah.
AI can already, if AI can teach it, then that means AI knows it. And so we should just give me one of them babble ears. Give me one of the you know, I don't know.
Babble ears. Yeah, babble ears.
There's some tower somewhere. I don't know. There,
Tower of Babel ears.
yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I'm all for it. Just plug me directly into the matrix and let the languages let the languages come. What about the cultural differences between, is it going to raise your hand for you when you're translating to Italy, Italian?
you know, I don't think it should. I think we should maybe not. Maybe that's a step too far.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do we need to assume the culture of the language that we're speaking? I don't know. It's maybe a separate argument.
Hmm. And I think maybe that's the step. If you need the culture, like you put the time in and you learn the language. You
You
don't
put the
just
time in.
babble ear it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't
You're
use Duolingo either, for what it's worth.
oh, that's fair. Not because they're AI first, but because they're an app
Yeah.
and
They're an app
not
on your
an
phone.
immersion into a
Yeah.
people's group. My I speak EDRDR Mandarin a little bit. That means a little bit. And there's a Chinese grandmother who's picks up her kid at the same bus stop where I pick up my kids, and we speak a little bit of broken Chinese and broken English back and forth, and it's great. And we like poke fun and like try to communicate. And I don't know that we ever really get across anything more than just a hey, how's it going? But it's fun. And then there's somebody else speaks no Chinese at all and pulls out their cell phone, which is their Tower of Babel ears, and they just have like a real conversation. And it just doesn't, I don't feel like they're as connected as me and La, because, we may not be saying anything, but we're communicating way more than battle
You
eaters.
don't have the slightest idea of how close those two people are. They probably are spending that whole time making fun of the idiot who's trying to speak Mandarin.
No, no. The struggle is fun. That's how we connect. We connect through struggle. So, in the short history of the Dirty Data podcast, I've made a prediction with every episode. And my prediction for this episode is that I'm not going to make a prediction this episode. And so I'll let you circle the infinities there. But I will invite the first guest ever on the Dirty Data show to make a prediction about anything in the world. It's what we do in predictive analytics. So this doesn't have to be a data-driven prediction, but I'm curious your spiciest, doesn't have to be spicy, whatever take you've got whatever you think fair market odds would be. Where's your prediction? What would you bet on here? What's going to happen in the future? Not the past, like a leak from the future.
I bet the Braves lose by 1 tonight.
Oh my Jesus Christ. That's an easy one.
Why?
They've lost by 1 the last 4 games?
Oh, geez.
5?
20.
Yeah, it's been ridiculous.
Probably not 20, but they've lost 20 of the last 25, and 15 of those have been by 1 run, something like that. That's a safe bet. Okay. We'll lose by 1.
And for the record, this is the game against Milwaukee tonight, June 9th. Braves lose by 1. You heard it here first. You probably didn't. You probably did. You probably did. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try to add an addendum to this episode when it gets published. It'll be published well after last pitch in the game and after you get your PhD, so it'll be a while. But we'll give a thumbs up or thumbs down whether that prediction came true or not. Dr. Keiter, any predictions to make about the future?
Let's see. I think Daniel will put AI last on his Italian vacation. He won't use any AI in any way.
Okay. Not
You
for
know,
translation, or not for any hey, Gemini, where's a good whatever?
Yeah, let's throw that in there. Yeah, anything. You're gonna put it last.
you're really giving me a lot of agency in proving your prediction wrong, Kim.
Yeah, I know.
We'll circle back after.
This
I'll
is,
let you
I
know,
think he's
Evan.
been inspired to put it last after this conversation.
Wow. Fight is a strong driver. And I
Yeah.
would like to point out for the Dirty Data audience that Daniel did just say we'll circle back. So if you had that on your Dirty Data bingo card, have a nice cold Budweiser.
Great.
Daniel, Kim, thanks so much for joining me, being the first guest ever on the Dirty Data show. We'll have you back once my dad convinces my mom to listen, and we've doubled viewership.
Sounds great. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's been an honor to be your first set of guests.
Which one of y'all dialed in first? Who was first?
I think, do you mean to the meeting?
Don't tell them this is a meeting. That's the fourth wall.
I think Kim was
Daniel?
first.
Oh, I thought it was
Oh
you.
my
Forever
gosh.
in controversy. Forever in controversy. For who's the first guest on the Dirty Data show? Who knows? All right. Thanks all. See you.
Bye.
Bye.